In the middle of the dangerous mountains and forests, the mother-in-law followed Sinnhat to work to earn money, but unexpectedly fell into a life-threatening situation. Just one wrong step, and her life was almost taken away. The rapid heartbeat, the panic in her eyes, everything seemed to end in tragedy. But then, that fateful moment opened up an unexpected ending, causing Nhat to gradually open his heart. The sky was bright, the golden sunlight spread across the village road, dispelling the early morning mist. Mother-in-law and Sinnhat had just started carrying the basket to the field. The chirping of birds, the gentle wind blowing through the bamboo trees made the atmosphere both peaceful and bustling. With life, the lush green squash field appeared before their eyes, the long, heavy squash fruits swaying under the trellis. The two of them quickly picked them. The crisp sound of cutting the squash stems mixed with soft laughter, and Nhat stood on the high bank. His mother-in-law followed the small path close to the ditch, with just one slip. She could fall into the deep water. Nhat was startled, immediately rushed to pull his mother back. Both of their hearts were beating fast. Cold sweat was dotting the air. This seemingly peaceful moment suddenly became tense. And in their eyes, a new understanding was just beginning to blossom. Sinnhat hurriedly helped his mother-in-law stand up. Her heart still pounding after the moment she almost fell. She nodded slightly. Then both of them bent down again, continuing to attentively pick the squash as if nothing had happened. The sound of scissors cutting the squash stem rang out regularly, blending with the light wind. However, they had no idea that, in the distance, behind the dense bamboo grove, a figure was quietly hiding. His eyes were cold, watching their every move, as if waiting for an opportunity to strike. Suddenly, the mother-in-law let out a soft cry of pain. A strong, cold force like a monster's hand grabbed her leg, pulling her down, causing her to fall face down on the wet ground. Mud covered her face. Her eyes were wide open. Her breathing was rapid, filled with panic. From afar, a tall black shadow appeared. His figure was silent, but his footsteps were screeching as if crushing the ground. The dim light was only enough to reveal his sharp eyes like a predator. With each step he took, his shadow swallowed her, making the air thick, as if foretelling an impending nightmare. She screamed in panic, her voice tearing apart the quiet space. Hearing that, Sinnhat immediately rushed over, his face full of worry. The other guy was startled for a moment. His eyes flashed with hatred. Then he turned and ran away into the bamboo grove. Nhat knelt down, gently helped his mother-in-law up, and asked with his eyes and gestures, "Does it hurt? Are you okay?" She shook her head slightly, exhaled, and said she was fine. At that moment, it seemed like all the walls of doubt in Nhat's heart collapsed, replaced by true trust in her. Although their hearts were still pounding with fear, Sinnhat and her mother-in-law knew that if they didn't pick enough squash, they wouldn't have enough to sell. Not enough money for the morning market. They looked at each other, didn't say a word, then bent down to pick quickly. The sound of scissors cutting the stems clack rang out urgently. Their hands were shaking, but they still worked continuously. Every rustling sound of leaves or broken bamboo branches made both of them startled and turned back, their eyes glued to the darkness in the distance. No one knew if the dark figure would return or not. They could only clearly feel the tension surrounding them. Finally, the basket of squash was full. They quickly shouldered it and walked quickly out of the field. The shadows of the two people stretched out on the village road, mingling with their heavy breathing, gradually moving away from the place that had almost become a nightmare. It seemed that after what she had just experienced, her mother-in-law had truly changed. Her gaze towards Sinnhat was no longer cold, but full of concern. When going to sell dong, Nhat intended to carry a basket of squash, but she immediately stopped him. "Let me carry it. You walk lightly, or you will get tired," she said firmly, then put the heavy basket on her shoulder. Today the market was crowded. The sound of buying and selling was bustling. Thanks to that, The squash of Sinnhat and her mother sold out quickly. Returning home, the mother-in-law suddenly looked at Nhat, her eyes filled with emotion. "This morning. If it weren't for you, I would have lost my life." Her voice trembled, and Nhat only nodded slightly, but in his heart a strange feeling of warmth rose. After expressing her gratitude, the mother-in-law had not yet sat down to rest when she turned to look at Sinnhat and said, her voice serious but full of concern, "Come here. I will teach you something. This morning I saw that your basket had a hole in the bottom. It is not sturdy enough to hold things." Nhat was a bit surprised, but still approached. She brought out a bundle of pre-split bamboo strips. Her thin but strong hands began to bend and weave each strand. "Hold it like this, put it through here, pull a little harder to make it firm. Don't be in a hurry, or else the basket will be crooked." As soon as her voice ended, her hands quickly demonstrated. Each weaving line was neat and even. The atmosphere became unusually warm. The sound of bamboo rubbing against each other mixed with the sound of the wind in the yard. Nhat unconsciously smiled. A feeling like sitting next to her biological mother suddenly came back. But then, a small speck of doubt still crept into her mind. Images of the old days, the cold words, the unpleasant eyes of her mother-in-law before, suddenly rushed back like a mist. Should I trust her this time? Her mind was confused again. Reason warned her that people could hardly change in just one day, that old wounds could not be erased easily. But her heart told her that perhaps the moment when her grandmother almost lost her life and her sincere eyes this morning were not fake. She didn't think much more. She watched attentively, then timidly followed. At first, the stiff bamboo strips made her fingers hurt a bit, but she patiently held her hand, correcting each movement. Her eyes softened, her voice slow as if afraid to confuse her. In each gesture, Nhat clearly felt the kindness, something she never thought she would receive from her grandmother. She still patiently sat beside her, occasionally correcting each misaligned bamboo thread. "Very good. You learn faster than I thought." She smiled, her eyes filled with pride. That simple compliment made Nhat's heart tremble slightly. The feeling of being recognized, of being truly cared for, made the ice of doubt in her begin to crack. When the basket was almost finished, she said softly, "It's done. This will be your basket. I taught you to use it, not to keep it." Nhat took it, suddenly feeling warm inside. Although the past was still like a sharp thorn, but perhaps, this time, she would give her grandmother and herself a chance. At that moment, Heng came home from work. As soon as he entered the house, he stopped when he saw his wife sitting next to her foster mother, her hands clumsily holding bamboo strips, her eyes attentively listening to her instructions on each weaving step. The afternoon sunlight gently shone through the porch, clearly illuminating the rare smile on Sinnhat's lips and her gentle face. Heng's heart suddenly warmed, a surge of happiness. He remembered the tense, cold days between them, and did not expect to see this scene today. All the resentment and misunderstanding seemed to disappear in that moment. Heng stood still, letting her heart be filled with hope that from now on this small family would truly be peaceful.